When you realize the vast amounts of interest that you're paying out to third parties and that there is an opportunity for you to recapture that, when would you want to start? The early bird gets the worm. Hello and welcome to the Durham Talents Channel. My name is Jesse Durham. Welcome to the show. Today, for our next installment in our quote series, we'll cover the timeless quote of the early bird gets the worm. Now, in the specific context of practicing or vetting the infinite banking concept, what it makes me think of is a tree. When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. That's the answer. I say that commonly. The next best time is today. Now, what Nash would commonly say is that if all things are equal, and one is accounting for their need for finance, and another is going about things conventionally, paying volumes and volumes of interest to third parties, then you'll win by default if you're practicing infinite banking. You'll simply win by default in comparison to what everyone else is doing. And my question often to someone who is vetting this idea, and it relates to this quote of the early bird gets the worm, is once you realize that the growth continues guaranteed, uninterrupted, the compounding of your dollars, the guaranteed growth of the cash values of a policy, if it's got this constant, perpetual upward trend, when would you want that to start? And just like with the tree, I mean, the best answer is 20 years ago, 30 years ago, right? But the next best time is today, because that doesn't begin until it begins. Likewise, when you look at how you're doing things already, and when you take an honest evaluation of interest dollars that you may be paying out to third parties, and if I could ask you if it were possible to recapture some, even some of those interest dollars, when would you want to start recapturing those dollars? And of course, the answer is always, well, today, right away, now. I'd like to start recapturing that money now. I'd like to start accessing the benefits of perpetual upward growth of my capital today, now. Awesome. You will have to account for analysis paralysis. I would say that it's very necessary to understand the infinite banking concept. The idea is you becoming your own banker, me becoming my own banker. I don't want to be your banker. I don't want you to be my banker or anyone else. So I want to be able to educate and help promote the idea that you can become your own banker. And the best time to be able to start, the way to be able to get that early start was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. I was on the phone earlier today with a client who we spoke 2 months ago. And he said, my goodness, has it already been 2 months since we spoke last? Because he's vetting this idea and living life, building a business. Big family man, has a lot on his plate, very productive individual. And it caught him off guard when I mentioned that it had been 2 months since we had last spoken. And such is the case. And that's happened time and time again in my experience, that there can be this paralysis by analysis. And the counter to that is that Nash would say more is caught than taught. It's all conversation until somebody writes a check when you are paying what are significant premiums for you, and then you're also subsequently accessing that capital for your need for finance, for the things that you're going to do anyway. It does matter when you start, because we are talking about whole life policies as well. You need coverage. I can't have enough death benefit. Let me put it that way. I can't get enough death benefit for myself and my heirs and my beneficiaries. And I continue to systematically grow and scale my system of policies. My wife and I have multiple policies right now. We currently have some in underwriting at the time of this recording to add to our system. So I can't get enough death benefit on myself. I can't have enough appreciating dollars. I can't have too much access to capital. So when we can arrive at knowing these things and wanting these things for ourselves, to be in control of the banking function, to privately own and control appreciating assets, then we can understand the value of a quote such as the early bird gets the worm. because time is no respecter of persons. Time is going to pass regardless. The sun's going to come up and the early bird gets the worm. Now that's not a pressure move. I personally begin with education. I teach and promote and coach and mentor on the idea that you can become your own banker, and you arrive at what is an appropriate number for you to be able to pay in premiums. You arrive at how you want to use a policy for your own purposes and ends. It's you becoming your own banker. But to address the timeless quote of the early bird gets the worm, there's a lot of merit there for us to consider, even when evaluating the infinite banking concept, to either vet it or implement it. So I hope that this has been helpful. If you have a quote that means something to you, I'd love to hear about that in our comments section below. And if you'd like to carry on this conversation about how you could implement the infinite banking concept into your household or your business or your investing, then you can reach me at 828-817-4223, or you can email durhamtalents@gmail.com. This has been a great pleasure for me. I look forward to our next conversation. Have a great day. Take care. My name is Jesse Durham. Today in our covering of